evening, everyone. This is Susan Thomas with MEX-PRE, and I'm so excited to be here at the lovely Poinciana Farms with JJ Tate. Thank you so much for agreeing to this.
Thank you.
I'm so excited.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You.
And I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So let's get started. The first thing is, please tell the listeners a little about yourself and your training and your background.
Okay, my name is Jessica Jo Tate, but everybody calls me JJ. And I have been training horses for a very long time. I started riding with Charles DeComfy, who is my mentor of over, I think it's almost like 33 years. So I started riding with him a very long time ago. Very young. And yeah, he ended up sending me to Europe when I was 18. I graduated high school and I went to Gyula Dalos in Budapest, Hungary. And I trained there for a little less than 2.5 years. I did young riders in America. And then I turned pro at 21 and I've been training horses ever since. I've trained with Stefan Peters, Oded Shimoni, Scott Hassler. Right now, Ali Brock is my coach, and I've been on the USEF developing list. And 2 years ago, we won the 4-star with a horse named Fabergé. We won the Grand Prix freestyle. He also won Devon, so I'm an international dressage competitor. But my biggest passion is bringing education to riders all over the world.
And that's exactly what you've done with me. Most of my listeners know that I'm located in Guadalajara, Mexico. And Mexico is not known for many dressage riders. Very, very few. So, you know, I don't really have anybody to train with. And so, you know, just basically, you know, on my own. So we'll get into Team Tate Academy a little bit later. So you've basically, you've quickly touched on, you know, just some of the wonderful coaches that you have had.
Yep.
And you've been extremely fortunate. And what I have loved, it's always a delight to watch you at the horse shows. And this weekend at the Palm Beach Derby was no exception. Tell us a few of the highlights of the Palm Derby show this weekend.
Well, I'm really grateful, first off, to Team Tate Academy for bringing us together, because that was so fun to connect and to know that the Team Tate Academy has a connection in Mexico, and it was just so great.
all around the world, basically.
Yes, we are around the world, but it was like so cool to meet you in person, to be like, I'm in your academy and I am in Mexico. And I was like, it's working. And we just got home actually yesterday from the Derby, and it's one of our favorite shows here in Wellington. I've been competing at the Derby for close to probably 20 years, and now it's moved over to the Adequan Global Dressage Festival Showgrounds, which is always an honor to ride.
It's an amazing facility.
In the International Stadium. It's just really special. So we had a great show. I competed Khaki Vroom's 16-year-old Oldenburg. His name is Darby, and it was fun because Darby went to the Derby. And he did the 4-star Grand Prix, and we were 7th in the International Grand Prix. And then he was almost a 72% under the Friday Night Lights in his freestyle, and he was amazing. He was so great. He was so great. Really and so he just loves a crowd, and I'm just so grateful. You know, you just never know what's going to happen with your horse when you get
never know.
In
we all know that.
Like a big environment like that.
And it's so electric.
It's so electric. And it's like people surround you basically on like 3 sides. And so the horses feel like really kind of in the middle of this like Coliseum like thing, you know?
Yeah,
and so
it's quite claustrophobic.
Yeah. Well, and even in the warm up, most people don't see, but like when the crowd, like when the music ends and you know the crowd is going to start to applause, like you better be paying attention.
You better have a hold, you better have some contact.
You better have a half halt coming, because it's pretty, it can get exciting. So Darby just loves a crowd, and he just thrives in that environment. So it's just a joy to ride him.
And it's a joy to watch you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes. And we also had one of my up-and-coming horses named Romeo, owned by Eileen Borman. And he's a pretty special guy because she and I share the ride. He's a 10-year-old gelding by Rousseau, and he's American bred, something special from Wisconsin.
Yes.
So like that's fun. We're both like small town Wisconsin people. So his name is Romeo, and he's just a mega horse. He is just so amazing, and I'm honored to ride him too. And he was third in his second International Prix St. George with like a high 69, and then he won his first ever intermediate one ever at a horse show. So he got a 70 yesterday and was excellent and led the victory round, which he's also so great because he's like such a good dude. It was like super windy, and he's just the best.
And those winds in Florida near the coast, they can get really scary.
So it can be, he's not under the lights on Friday, but the wind
wasn't
Wellington.
enough, and he was a good boy.
And I also brought out 2 other horses. I showed also for Khaki, who owns Darby. She also owns a young horse. His name is Denali. He's a beautiful black coming 7-year-old, and he did his 3rd level debut, and he won his class with a 72.5. So that was really exciting. And my personal horse named Apollo, he just went to school, but that was a wonderful experience for him too, because he gets very, very electric at the horse show. And then he gets a little bit shy and doesn't want to just swing and be loose.
Yeah, a little bit tight.
Totally tight.
Yeah, that's challenging.
Really tight. So we've been practicing. We're just going to, I told him showing's not a big deal. You just need to keep going, chopping your wood. Showing up and just do a little bit better every time. So he didn't win any ribbons, but like for me, like he won this weekend because he was the happiest he'd ever been at a show. He wasn't stressed.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He was just super. So, I think I rode him first on Saturday morning. I just schooled him, and I'm like, well, Apollo was perfect, so we could go home.
And that's another thing that JJ always reminds us, is that every horse has their own Olympics. And, let's not overface them, too quickly. But one horse is, may go to the Olympics, and another horse, their Olympics could be getting the left canter lead or something.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So that really, really, really encourages me.
That totally comes from Charles DeComfy, who I've just am so grateful and blessed to have him in my life since I was 11. So he has really helped me, always understand how it's important to make an okay horse good and a good horse great. And then if you're lucky enough to one day get a great horse, to make it phenomenal. But, having that idea that every horse's Olympics is a little bit different is something that's always...
We always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that the horses feel good about their accomplishments, and that doesn't need to be a blue ribbon, or maybe it's just, like you said, picking up the left lead canter depart without throwing their head up, or stretching down. I've certainly have retrained many horses
that
in my life.
Stretch down.
No, and some don't want to walk, some don't want to stretch down, some have trouble bending to the right, and to understand the process and to let that horse feel successful and sort of meet him where he's at, I think is a big passion of mine. And to find the way into that horse to help him feel better about himself, whether that's if you want him to feel more athletic or if you want him to feel more supple. I mean, horses don't want to feel tight or nervous or skittish, and so I always think about them as a little puzzle, and I need to find their little puzzle pieces. And so for Apollo this weekend to go to the show and be so like cool, calm, and collected, like
was enormous.
That was enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually bigger than the other ones.
Yeah. So you didn't need
like
to
winning
compete.
their classes. Yeah,
Exactly. So that's wonderful. And for those of you that don't know, and I didn't know it either, the Palm Beach Derby is the longest running show in Florida. I think it's been like 80 years or something like that. So it's really, really a fun show. If y'all have the opportunity, please check it out. Oh, so besides being a classical rider, you're also what she calls herself, and it's very true, a sharer. When most upper level riders are trying to keep their methods secret, you on the other hand want to share with all your dressage riders what has worked for you and others. So we can also have our success. When COVID hit, I think you were actually planning to build a teaching classroom in your farm in Tryon. Is that correct?
I was. We have a farm in Landrum, South Carolina. So we're just about a half an hour south of Tryon.
Okay.
So we're technically South Carolina, but we still like see the mountains, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place.
Nice.
But I'd actually met with builders, and we were thinking about somehow like adding on to the arena to put up classrooms, because Charles DeComfy, my mentor, like doesn't want to give clinics without lectures. Like he's like, you must have classroom sessions.
Yes.
So it's been like theory. This is the book list. You know, this is what you need to read, you know, don't read that, read only this, you know, and so he's been so strict about learning the science of riding, as he always says. And so he used to always tell me stories about him growing up. He grew up in Budapest, Hungary, and before the war, Budapest and Vienna were like the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and they had two sister schools. So as much as we've all thought that the Spanish riding school is like a giant mecca, there used to be a sister school, and they would like exchange riders. And
that's wonderful.
So Charles grew up in this academy setting, and if you check out some of his books, he talks about how horses saved his life during the years of the war and the Russian occupation, and horses legit like saved his life. And this lifestyle of this academy and the way he used to talk about his teachers just was so meaningful to me. And I thought, I'm a sharer, like Susan said. Number one, because I grew up in Wisconsin, in a very small town, Wisconsin, and I was like, how do I do this?
Yes.
Like, I need some help.
So you feel my pain.
I totally do. And like, that's why I created the academy, because I was like, if you know, Charles has also taught us some of the rider virtues is to be charitable. And I always thought to myself, like, what does that mean? Like, I don't have money to give away, you know, so how can I be charitable? And Charles always talks about giving without needing anything in return, giving of your time, giving of your knowledge, to help others, you know. And for me, I love horses so much. It's a passion of my life to improve horses' lives by educating their riders.
Exactly.
Not only with management, but riding techniques, thought processes, and theory. And so...
And it's all hand in hand.
It is. Yes. It's all completely related about, you know, we're just talking about saddle fit, feed, management of their health, proper care, good riding, good exercising, self-care.
Self-care.
You know, it's just like all the things that I have learned the hard way in my life. You know, I want to kind of help everyone else's journey be a little bit easier, and although none of it's easy.
None of it's easy. We all know that.
It's of course simple, but it's not easy. And so I always had this dream to start an academy, and we've been talking about it for years, and we didn't know what to call it, and we didn't know, you know, where to build it. And so I started to meet with the builders, and then 2020 hit and COVID happened, and we were all panicking. And I teach a lot of clinics typically in a year. And so I have a lot of students, you know, all over the United States. And I have always had this, like, my business is Team Tate. So we've always had this like supportive, wonderful group of like-minded people. And so I thought that would be so cool to have this like academy. And then we were like, right, yeah, I can't leave the farm.
I can't go see my team.
And no one can come here. Like no one's going anywhere. Like what did we do?
Yeah.
So Catherine Respis of Red Mare Enterprise is a very dear friend of mine, and we'd been talking together about the academy, and she's like, we should go online. And I'm thinking like,
what?
Yeah, and like, how do you even teach riding on a video? Like there's no way. But then, because I'm a sharer, and like I'm always talking, and I want to take the mystery out of good riding. I want everyone to know out there that you are capable of doing the right thing by your horse. It just takes education, it takes time, it takes perseverance, it takes, you know, all the things it takes, but we're all capable of riding our horses well. And I always say, like, you have to love your horse enough to ride it well. You know, like we always say like, I love him so much. And I'm like, put him on the bit and sit properly, you know, like,
help make it easier,
right,
make his
like,
life easier.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like make his body enjoy the work.
Happier.
And you can totally do that. And for many years of my business, I would have horses that the owners were not local. And so a lot of times we would take our nice camera and I'd mic up and I'd ride around and I would explain to the owner through the camera. I'm like, oh, can you see him? I'm doing this and this is how he's reacting. And then you saw him do this. And so then I decided to do that. And, you know, just like talking and riding and explaining so that they could see it. And they would, you know, my owners would love that. They're like, oh, I just feel so connected to the process and what you're doing. And I just love that. And I thought to my husband, oh, why don't you grab my, honey, grab the microphones and grab my phone. I'm going to ride around on horses I've trained. I'm just going to ride around and explain concepts that just need clarification for everybody. So the first one I did was the proper warm-up with Gideon.
Oh, yeah.
I actually don't think I even had a mic system yet for that because I ended up later on I had to redo it with a mic.
Voiceover, yeah.
So I redid the video with a microphone on. So it was funny because I basically said the same thing because I've been saying in 25 years of teaching clinics, I've found ways that like click with riders that they're like, oh.
Yeah, you have a wonderful way of simplifying.
Yeah, but it's like trial and error. I've taught so many clinics and had so many students and had to explain it. And if they weren't getting it, find a different way to explain it, get on, maybe show them. And so, you know, I really feel like, you know, Maya Angelou is like, if you know better, you can do better. Definitely. And I always think like, if we can know the right way to do it, we can make the steps towards doing it in a better way for the love of our horses. And that's how the academy got created. And it's completely exploded and become like my life joy. I mean, I can't believe like what's happened. It was,
it's been amazing.
So every week everyone gets, and I had to make them short because I was like, this needs to be for me. But for me, like 20 years ago, when I did not have the ability to go to Florida, get lessons, I mean, get someone in for clinics, you know, it's like I've always had a real hunger for, I want to know the answer. I want to figure out why is that, you know,
dig deeper.
I'm just like a real question asker.
It's like, oh, you know, connect to the outside rein. Well,
what does that mean?
How? Right. Why?
And how, right?
How?
And I do, you know, thank Charles for that because he's so much not just the what, like so many trainers and teachers can say rounder, go more forward. That's like the what? Right. But it's like, how do I do that? Why is that important? When do I do that in the timing of the footfalls? And like, what's the end result? What am I looking for? What should that feel like on my horse? And so I had to make them short because like, I'm all about this needs to be easy.
Yeah.
You need to have it on your phone on an app. So we have an app for that, which
wonderful,
is so great.
So you can take Jessica and her team literally in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. In your car, in your pocket.
Wherever. besides having her on your computer, your smart TV.
Exactly.
So, when you want to watch the videos, you can watch them as big a screen as you want. But if you have a question in your barn, you just pop out your telephone. We're all connected to our telephones now.
Exactly. So. And it has become so easy, and they're very short. I also didn't want to have, you get a 45-minute lesson, and the lesson is about shoulder in at the trot, but it takes like 30 minutes to get to the point that speaks to you, right? Like I've really attempted to like condense it all down between like 8 and 14 minutes. It's a funny story because my husband does a lot of the filming. So at minute 9, he'll like raise his hand. Well, and sometimes I do talk too much, as you can tell. I am a talker. So I just get explaining, in the 5 ways I have found all of my students have connected with one of those ways.
Yes.
And so when the video's over, he's like, "Did you see my hand?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I saw your hand up. I'm not going to give you I got your hand." But so I try to make them near 10 minutes. So every now and again, they're like 15.
Yeah, but usually they're like 8 to 10.
Right. And it's like to the point,
Yes.
I kind of, and I'm always riding with a mic, and I ride all kinds of different horses. That's,
which was another thing that really appealed to me, because I had tried other, things online, and they were wonderful, but, I ride and sell, the business is most Iberian horses. And, as my viewers know, I also rescue and rehab and all that. So everything comes in my barn, but not a fey horse.
Yeah.
No, don't have that. So, when these lovely ladies are riding, beautifully matched on their fey horse, I've just kind of already clicked out. Like, my horses are never going to get that international trot. And they start talking about all these things, and like, I'm just really sad,
Yeah.
But with you ride everything. Small, short, tall, old, young, fat, thin, stallion,
mares.
Rescues, mares, so that just really, really appealed to me. And your process that you can make, a good horse better.
Yeah.
And,
and I mean, when I think about all the horses that have shaped me and my process, we're very process orientated, because sometimes you just don't know what the end product might turn into. I mean, I have certainly been surprised by horses where I'm like, it's not the most talented, but like, whoa,
where really tries or something. Yeah,
right? Like Darby is like not this like super international, sparkly, legs flying kind of horse. Like Darby goes in there and does it for me because he has heart and he's trained well.
Yes, and he loves to show, and he loves you, and it's just so evident. And the two of you are just out there dancing together. And, that's what dressage should be. It should be fun. And help your horse, whatever that is, whatever that means to you. Help your horse be as good as they can be and have fun doing it.
Exactly. I always say, if it's not fun, we should not do it. And that's for the horse too, I've had, in the academy, I made a big effort, because the horses, again, I've learned the most on were really the most difficult horses. And I have taught a Percheron to canter. I have Isaac in the academy.
Tell us a little bit about Isaac.
Isaac,
I think we all have one of those in our barn.
He is like so amazing, and he did not come to Florida this year because his owner, we call her Little Teresa because she's really tiny. She's like 5 feet tall, so she fits perfectly on the 14-2 rescue pony. I'm like 5'11", so I look like a little tall. I'm a little tall for him. But he came to us, to Teresa, actually. She saved him, and he was at their local rescue. He was being used for very interesting seances, I believe, and he was still a stallion, starved. It was really not great.
Yes. And now I believe
He's getting ready to
Teresa's competing him or going to compete him in 4th level.
Yes, she competed
that's
4th level,
amazing.
and he was schooling the Prix St. George. And so we really pride ourselves on, again, like bringing your horse into a better confident athlete, a more athletic athlete, something that's easier to ride, and a really great harmony. You know, my first horse was a wonderful saddlebred who really taught me about trust and partnership and harmony. And I just really bring that to every relationship I have in my stable. Like right now we have 20 horses, but I really make each one of them feel like they're my favorite.
Very special.
I tell them that they're my favorite and that they should not tell the other ones that they're my favorite. I will deny it.
Yes. Every time.
You know, I feel like when a horse feels that like pride that you bring to them, you know, I think that is what it's all about. Like the horse feeling good in their body, good in their joints, good in their job of being a riding horse and carrying their rider. And we can totally create that in no matter what horse you have. And that's with the academy, I was like, I know I can help you train your horse at home if you follow these steps. And there's like 150 videos right now. It's like this giant library, and
so whatever you're
struggling with,
whatever you're struggling, or you have a question, or I mean, it's even as basic as, you know, what's the best warm up? How should you warm up your horse? Right. And yet she has different types of horses. There's not just a rote answer.
Right.
So she shows, you know, one horse, I think Fiji, that doesn't, you know, it's not good for him to go as long as low, but he still goes out. So it's just amazing. Or maybe, you know, you're struggling with your seat or the canter depart or flying changes.
I was just going to say, there's like a lot of flying change videos in there. So, and we really, what I also wanted to bring is this like question and answer ability. You know, like we feel a lot of times, I felt in my life very isolated, living in the middle of nowhere, trying to train horses. And like, I have all these questions, and like
there was no library. There's a big echo in the ocean. So one of the other things she has, hello. Like, I'm drowning.
Right. In flying change.
No one is throwing you, a floating device. So another thing that's really wonderful, you know, 99 times out of 100, you know, I can very quickly find the answer in the library. But just if I have somebody has a different question, or I have whatever, every other Monday at 7:00, there is,
the tack room chat.
So you can ask questions.
We're so proud of that, because we wanted it to feel like an interactive class and a group.
And it really is. It really is.
So every Monday you will get like the regular video that comes out. You'll get an email, what the video is about, a little synopsis. We put a sneak peek on Facebook. And so that's like Monday, boom, that drops into your mailbox. Then every other Monday night, we do a tack room chat, which is like in my imagination, it's like how we're even just sitting here right now talking about horses. Yeah. So you'll get an email about which 2 videos to review. And then either me or I've got 8 really wonderful Team Tate trainers who've been with me for like forever. All of them have been with me at least over 10 years. Yes. So they know my program. All like amazing people, amazing trainers, great teachers. And so you can bring your questions, and everything is recorded. So even if you can't make it that Monday, but you want to send in your questions, we will answer your question. You can watch it anytime you want.
Yes.
So that's like the working student. So that's like the first level. Then there's a middle level called the apprentice level. So if you want to get a little deeper into it and get a little bit more into theory and like what's behind a lot of the videos, every second Wednesday, I give like an hour and a half Zoom lecture to the apprentices and the trainers. And then of course the elite level is the trainer level, but that doesn't mean you need to be a trainer. That just means you would like a lesson once a month as well. And it's really cool. I've connected to people in Canada and Norway and South Africa. And so we're legit like teaching all over the world. And
international.
As long as you got internet, you can get a lesson.
Good.
Yeah. And that's just, I never thought that before COVID.
Yes.
Like that was a big blessing. I mean, at first we all panicked and COVID was terrible, and it still like
is.
terrible.
Yes.
And, but
some good have,
right. I mean, the advances that we can all still share. And I felt like it was a real community.
Yeah.
And a real ability to connect to each other through this difficult time of distance and isolation. It became kind of a lifeline to just connect us all through what we love, which is the horses.
Yes, because even, basically we're at the barn and we're kind of, by ourselves or, whatever. But COVID just isolated everyone, even so much more than we could ever have imagined.
Yeah.
And so this has just been a godsend to so many people. And also explain a little bit about Wine About Wednesdays.
Okay. So
my favorite. I always have a glass of wine while I listen.
So because of that too, because of COVID and, everybody always wants to know like what's happening with the team. They have their favorite horse that they follow, or they know I went to a show. And so on Wednesdays, I started to call it Wine About It Wednesdays, which of course we're not complaining, but we're like having to toast about something like whatever, because what I really want people to understand is like the struggle is totally normal.
Real for everyone, no matter what level.
Whatever level.
Yes.
I mean, getting the horse to understand something, getting your body to do something. Yes. We've all been there. Like we all posted on the wrong diagonal and pulled on the horse's face till we learned how to do it right. Yeah. And that's got nothing to do with anything except time that you've been able to be at it and the correct education. And so I just thought it would be so fun to kind of bring everybody into this process time of like,
and with a great sense of humor.
Right. Because if you can't laugh about it, then
we decide to laugh so we don't cry.
Right. There is also sometimes crying.
There is
and
sometimes
that's okay.
crying,
and there is crying.
There is crying
in dressage.
Yes.
Because that's when I know you care about it a lot. Is when you get really passionate about it. But and I always say, if you haven't cried about dressage yet, just wait.
You will.
You will.
You will.
And so I just want to like bring everyone together in that. Like I was actually listening to we have the Dressage Life with JJ Tate as a podcast as well, and it came up on my memory, and so I was listening to it, and I was really frustrated with one of my young horses. This is a really busy stable down here. There's like 60 horses here at Poinciana.
And it's an amazing facility, by the way.
It's amazing. And I love it. And it's a great group of people. But I have a young horse who's really scared of traffic. So with other horses in the ring, he's just like whoa, like completely like Freddie will win his Olympics too when we can just trot around and canter
with 10 other horses in the ring.
That will be
yes, winning. And we've probably all owned one of those or had one of those in our barn.
You need to lunge before you get on.
Yes.
And and I just talked about that, and I just shared my frustration. I didn't feel like we were advancing quick enough, and I felt frustrated, and like that's all normal.
That's all very normal.
Or you go to the horse show and you felt like you had a great ride, and then like the score wasn't great. Like I talk about that because,
or you go in there and you think I have got this nailed. This is my show,
right? And
then there are gale force winds, and there's the mirrors and heat, and the tire goes, and just everything goes wrong, and you get a 58 or 56 or something
or
like
50.
that. Or 50.
Sometimes that happens too.
That happens too.
And then sometimes you feel like it wasn't a great ride at all and you get this great score. And then you're like, someone help me make sense of this.
Yes.
So I really try to wrangle everyone together and let everyone feel, comfortable with the uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
And, my first trainer, Gail Keln, who's a dear friend of mine still, she's the one who introduced me to Charles de Cumpy. We would always sit around. There was this big table in the lounge.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd ride our horses and then we'd all just kind of like hang out. And I probably learned more sitting around that round table discussing horses, horse personalities, horse reactions, people personalities, how to teach people. Just that sitting around and discussing stuff openly was a huge part of my growing up. And I always thought, like, I wish I could create that again, that we could just like sit around and talk about horses. And so the Wine About It Wednesday. So I did.
Yes.
So that's on Facebook. It's called Team Tate TV. You can see our behind the scenes, different interviews, the doings. There was a bunch of videos I posted from the weekend, from the horse show, Darby's Friday Night Lights, which is exciting, but also Denali's third level test 3, because like everyone's on their own journey time frame, right? Yeah. Charles always talks about like the horse is its own calendar. And so it just happens when it's supposed to happen, and we have to be patient.
Yeah, we have to be patient. And so another thing that I totally love, please check out her podcast on Spotify, and are they also on Facebook?
And Apple Podcasts.
And Apple Podcasts.
So I totally like geeked out when I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm on Spotify and
they're amazing.
Apple, like the Apple Podcast.
Or
yeah,
something,
I was
whatever
just
that
like,
is.
oh my God, it's happening. So
yeah. And on Spotify too, on Instagram, there's IGTV.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, we're on there too.
You're on there too.
Yeah. So you can find
Facebook.
us at Team Tate Dressage and Team Tate Academy. And on Facebook, it's probably the easiest to go to Team Tate TV. And then you can check us out with our online academy at www.teamtateacademy.com. And we'll probably put in a special link.
We will.
That can connect you guys all through here.
Yes. And that was so exciting. And it's really another thing that's also extremely important to most of us, because, our horses eat all our money, and, we're all basically really poor. We all drive old cars, but,
yes.
we've got a great trailer and our horses have everything.
Yeah, the horses want for nothing.
Yes, they want for nothing. But, when you compare the price, the monthly, I think for the affiliate is something like $37. Yep. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing, amazing value. I mean, because if you could take a lesson, what does a lesson cost?
Right.
And the fact that, you can watch, over 100 videos on your smart TV, be able to access that on your phone anytime you have a question, to me, it was just a no-brainer. But you can check it out. Also, there's a free, I think it's the small tour.
Yes. Just so you guys can kind of like get a little familiar about the platform and how it all works, we've got something called the small tour, where you can kind of like get in there and kind of see around. I think there's a lecture in there and a couple of videos.
Yeah.
So that, and another thing we wanted to do was, our trainer's time is really, I love to talk theory, and I love to give lectures, and I love to put theory into my lessons. But not all trainers teach in that way. Yeah. And so a lot of times they kind of like have their time for your lesson, and then they've got to like get on another horse, or they
get
just
in the car and
right,
go to another
they go to the
barn.
next
Their
barn.
time is very limited.
And so you might have questions, and so we also we don't want to replace your trainer. Like, we want to just be part of your team and support
and add
you.
on, kind of dig a little bit deeper. if you
Yeah,
want to.
and kind of explain maybe what your trainer doesn't have time to kind of fill in the blanks for you through more theory and a nice visual of watching it. So it kind of works for all learning types of, like, if you're auditory, you can hear it. If you're visual, you can see it. And then, of course, kinesthetic is you doing it and then coming back to us with questions after you've tried it yourself.
And again, on all types, ages, and sizes of horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just to me, and that's what I always do, is I share, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And this has been, like if you're, in a small town, or you're in a country or somewhere where you just can't have ready access to, clinicians or trainers or whatever, there's no excuse. Check it out. Thank you so much, JJ. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Susan.
And any questions, we'll put links below the videos. And please feel free, to connect with me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.